Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Late Thanksgiving night, a little bit of an instant reaction to the Ole Miss Rebels taking care of business in Starkville against Mississippi State. And want to talk about a few different things. One, Ole Miss winning ugly, I think is a really good sign. There are going to be games where you do not play your best football. Lane Kiffin said it in the post-game press conference. I think everyone saw it in the first half. That offense really struggling to find its rhythm, to get some traction. They were able to lean on their defense, get an ugly win on the road in a rivalry game. But I also want to talk about where this Ole Miss Rebels team is going. And potentially, I think this is a team that should be in a New Year's Six Bowl. And you look at, yes, is there some frustration in terms of bumping your head against the ceiling and not quite getting that SEC championship appearance? Yes, I totally understand that frustration. But you look as a fan and look at this Ole Miss team in the improvement year over year under Lane Kiffin, you have to be fired up about the development of this program and where this program is going, and looking forward to 2024, getting guys like Judkins and Jackson Dart back. This is going to be one of the teams to be in the SEC in 2024. Really excited to see the development of this program. Before we get into the game, talk about the future of the program, just want to say thank you to you guys. And the amount of support y'all have shown, it really does mean a lot. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, but also love to hear from you guys in the comment section as well. I'm sure y'all down in Oxford are feeling great. Yes, was it a sloppy game? Was it an ugly game? Sure it was, but at the end of the day, it was a 10-point win against a rivalry opponent on the road. Ole Miss fans, you're going to take that any way you can get it. Any way you can get a rivalry win, an Egg Bowl win, you're certainly going to take it. Appreciate y'all rocking with the boys. I want to talk about the game first and then get into the kind of the future of this Ole Miss program. Now, my game recap, ugly in the first half. Lane Kiffin, again, said that this is an Ole Miss offense that really does rely on pace. It relies on kind of rhythm. And they just weren't able to find that rhythm in the first half. And if you're an Ole Miss fan looking at this, yes, frustrated with the offense, especially in the first half, but to be able to lean on the defense, and this is not the first time Ole Miss has had to lean on the defense to get a win, that's a really good sign. And this is a game where Ole Miss last year probably does not win because they don't have this caliber of defense to keep Ole Miss in the game as long as that defense did. You look back to a couple other games. I would throw Tulane in there. I would throw Auburn in there. In terms of games where the offense really struggled to find its rhythm, and the Ole Miss defense standing tall, coming up on third downs, and consistently getting those stops. And at some point during the game, Lane Kiffin is going to find a play and going to get into this offensive rhythm. And you saw that on that third and short where they had the little pop pass to Caden Prescorn that went to a touchdown. Lane Kiffin's going to find that. Sometimes it might take a little longer in the duration of the game. And for him to find that and have the defense hold them in the game for that long and have the ability to find some of those explosive plays, I think speaks a lot to where this program is going. And you look at this defense, specifically in the front seven. That's no knock on the secondary. We'll talk about that in a second. I think they did a phenomenal job in the transfer portal, grabbing some guys, but that front seven looks different. We haven't seen an Ole Miss front seven that wins at the point of attack consistently, is able to stop the run, able to get pressure on the quarterback, impact the quarterback. That is the Ole Miss front seven that we saw today, and that's one of the aspects that made this Ole Miss team special this year. There was times where this offense kind of struggled to find its rhythm, and you saw guys like J.J. Pegas, Jared Ivey, Cedric Johnson consistently come up big for this Ole Miss team. The linebacker play has been solid all year. A guy like Suntarine Perkins, I'm extremely excited about what he can do in the future. And then you look at the back end, and you have to give Lane Kiffin and the staff a lot of credit in terms of identifying guys that will be able to come in at the SEC level and play at a high level. Guys like John Sanders coming from the MAC conference, Zamari Walton coming from Georgia Tech, guys that maybe were a little slept on in the transfer portal. And Ole Miss takes a flyer on some of these guys, and they hit. And this is an Ole Miss defense that you look, it's a top defense in the entire country. We're not used to saying that about this Ole Miss team. What we're used to saying is this Ole Miss team is dangerous because they can outscore a lot of their opponents. We're not used to looking at this Ole Miss team and saying they're dangerous because they can win these kind of games as well. You look at teams like Georgia, in Alabama. And when their offenses are struggling to find its rhythm, they are able to win these uglier games because their defense can come up with plays. This Ole Miss team showed that this can be that caliber of team, where if that offense is struggling, we're going to keep that offense in as long as we can. And at some point, Lane Kiffin, Jackson Dart, they're going to be able to find some of those explosive plays. And you look at the offense, specifically in the second half, I mean, if you're giving out a game ball, it has to be the Quinshon Judkins. I mean, he provided so much juice to this Ole Miss offense. That dude, 28 carries on the day, continued to run the rock harder. And it seemed like with every drive and every carry he got, he just got stronger. And he kind of eventually just kind of broke this Mississippi State defense down. When you're getting a guy that's coming and coming and coming, that was Quinshon Judkins. And it was not there. That offensive line was not great in the first half. There was not much room for Judkins to operate. He continues to come. He continues to run hard. This Ole Miss offense goes through the run game, and a guy like Quinshon Judkins to have the second half that he did, take almost 30 carries, massive, massive story. And you got to give some love to Jackson Dart. Again, behind an offensive line that was really shuffled. They had some injuries, moving guys around. Jackson Dart did not play his best game. Ball was not coming out on time. It was not coming out accurately for a majority of this football game. But when there was a play that needed to be made and he had to put his shoulder down and be a leader and be that dude, I mean, Jackson Dart showed up, and you know he was banged up. You know he was hurt. But have him have that performance when it mattered most, that's the type of stuff you're looking for this Ole Miss team. That culture-building stuff, like it's hard. And what Lane Kiffin does with all these transfers, it's hard to build that culture, that kind of culture that it's not going our way. It's the last game of the season, and you continue to come and kind of just be a dog on a bone and continue to grind. That was what you saw against this Ole Miss team. And everyone talks about using the transfer portal. Can you build a culture with so many guys from the portal? You saw that culture on display in Starkville tonight. Now, the future of this Ole Miss program. If you look at it, let's talk about the New Year's Six for a second. This is an Ole Miss team that deserves a New Year's Six bowl. You look at their wins, Tulane, a top 22 team in the country. You look at LSU, a really impressive win where you went toe-to-toe with the best offense in the country and won that game at home. And you look at their two losses on the road against the Georgia Bulldogs, who look like they're just the best team in college football once again, and on the road at Alabama, a team that, again, looks like they're one of the best teams in college football. They have two losses against arguably the two best teams in college football right now. The rest of those games have been wins, a lot of them in dominant fashion. This Ole Miss team deserves to be in a New Year's Six bowl. And if they get to a New Year's Six bowl and you look at what they're returning from next year, what they potentially are returning next year, Jackson Dart, a guy like Quinshon Judkins, the bones of this team, the leaders of this team, if you're an Ole Miss fan and not only looking to get into a New Year's Six bowl game, get to 11 wins, but also looking to next year in terms of closing that gap, because it's you can't argue this gap is getting closer and closer to the Georgia Bulldogs, to the Alabama Crimson Tide. It's cooking in Oxford. And again, 10-win season, a lot to be proud of. A win over a rival in a game that's ugly, that's sloppy, where you're banged up. I mean, there's a lot to be excited about what's cooking in Oxford, Mississippi. I was fired up, and I get it. It was a snooze fest for a lot of casual fans. But to see Ole Miss win one ugly like that, I think if you're an Ole Miss fan, again, not pretty, but an ugly win against a rival, a massive win for the Ole Miss Rebels. We'll leave it at that. Late night. Hope you guys all had a phenomenal Thanksgiving. Fired up about this team. Can't wait to see what bowl game they get into. We'll be breaking that one down. And again, transfer portal season is coming. We'll be recapping that as well. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.